meet our hosts.
Now, are you ready?
Good evening. It's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock. It's the 20th of July. It's DPMF Live. Back with another one to give you the latest on the crypto world and XRPL. And tonight we're going to be talking about XDX, DPMFLive. We're going to talk about any updates, augmented reality, 3D NFTs. We got a big packed show. As ever, we got Lucky Live Free. We got Mike, aka the David Schwartz lookalike. We got Danny Boy, the chance of calling, and we got Wicked Wes, giving you everything that you want to get the latest on. We are here to serve the crypto community as ever. So please like, share, subscribe, go to our YouTube channel, which actually Raylene is actually smashing out the park. Thank you, Raylene. But yeah, get to the YouTube channel, have a listen to our shows, comment in the comments box. We love the community getting involved. We got a fun packed show tonight. Dan, hit us with the markets.
Right, okay. So before we go into that, and thanks for that amazing introduction, Barry, we'll go into the markets and see where we sit. I think, was it brought out earlier? We was having a chat. I think some Bitcoin dominance has started to tumble a little bit. So ranked at number one, Bitcoin, $118,438. It's about level on the 7-day. Ranked at number two is Ethereum, sitting at $3,750, which is up 25% on the 7-day. Ranked at number three is our XRP, sitting at, I've got on CoinMarket here, $3.52, up 22.57%. Is that right?
That's quite away from 35 cents, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, but we don't talk about that. Is that right? Is XRP at $3.52 right now?
Yeah, man, all-time high. Didn't you notice it last week? That's old news now. That, you should be well chuffed.
Oh, well, I didn't know it was there. I need to go and start selling some. Right. I got a small bag. Teva is ranked at number 4, which is an obvious dollar. BNB is ranked at number 5 at $749, which is up 8%. Ranked at number 6 is Solana, sitting at $181, which is up 11.52% on the 7-day. Ranked at number 7 is USDC. USDC has been ranked number 7 for a while. It don't move. Dogecoin, 27 cents, which is up 33.8%. Cardano is back in the top 10 from a few months ago, which is ranked at number 9, sitting at 86 cents, up 15% on the 7-day. And then ranked at number 10 is Tron at 31 cents, which is just under 5%. So it's doing real. No, I didn't know XRP was at $3.50.
Yeah, man, there was a massive party in the week. I jumped onto some X shows during the week. I think it was Vet that was doing some, and there was an overspill of emotion because XRP has been hounded for years, and then suddenly, just out of nowhere, it kind of pops up. So I think it's quite a moment, really, and I think people got really emotional about it, which is fair enough. I've got some massive nuggets tonight, massive nuggets. I've done a bit of research into the obviously the very well educated world of X, and 61 apparently in the UK, 61,000 Bitcoin has been sold in the last few days, and I wonder where that money's gone.
I think I read something about that, wasn't it? There was an article or something. I come across something. They said the price hadn't moved or something, and quite a lot had had been extracted or been sold into the market, but it didn't really do anything. Yeah, and we had the stable coin. Well, there was a bill that passed in the US recently. Elaborate with me here, because I know it's in your ground, and I caught a bit of the news on it.
It was the Genius Act.
It was on the USD though, wasn't it? It wasn't RLUSD.
Right, I've got some more nuggets, Dan. Right, some big nuggets. Did you know that the XRPL transaction activity has increased by 15% in the last few days? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
And Swift has decreased by 15%. Is that strange or not?
Yeah, but Swift has decreased by 15%. You're talking, that's a lot. It's massive.
There might be some really weird coincidences going on, perhaps, maybe, I'm not sure. But also, right, I heard that, old Hugo from the Flair world, and I know, everyone's got their bags and stuff, but XRP is going to be able to be staked through Uphold, and you'll be rewarded in XRP. Did you know that? That's coming, apparently, for all the XRP holders.
But I spoke to Hugo, last time I spoke to him was years ago, because the Flair community was really, really small back then. It was like before they took off, before they done their airdrop, etc. And I used to speak to him. But what I have noticed, because I've got him on LinkedIn and some of the team, they talk a lot about XRP. You know, the Flair, a lot of Flair posts are about XRP. Why even talk about Flair? It's always something for XRP, which is great. I'm not actually against it, but I'm like, am I missing something here? There's, which one do you love most?
Absolutely.
All right, I got the info on the Genius Act, okay?
Go on.
So it's signed by President Donald Trump on July 18, 2025. It establishes a regulatory framework for stablecoins, cryptocurrencies pegged to a stable asset, typically the US dollar, to maintain consistent value and reduce volatility compared to other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. The Act aims to protect consumers, foster innovation, integrate stablecoins into the mainstream financial system, while addressing concerns about fraud, mismanagement, and illicit activities. So the provisions are the stablecoin regulation. Stablecoins must be backed 1-to-1 by US dollars or low-risk assets, for example, treasury bills, ensuring issuers hold sufficient reserves to redeem coins at any time, so meaning no fractionalization. This addresses past concerns about underfunded stablecoins such as the 2022 Terra collapse. Issuers are required to conduct monthly audits, maintain minimum liquid capital, segregate reserves to enhance transparency and consumer protection. The Act mandates that stablecoin holders have the priority for repayment in case of issuer bankruptcy, reducing the risk of financial loss. Meaning that the holders get priority over everybody else, over the company. Issuers must comply with anti-money laundering rules and anti-terrorism sanctions to prevent stablecoins from being used for illicit activities like ransomware or drug trafficking. The federal and state oversight establishes dual federal and state supervision for stablecoin issuers, creating a clear regulatory framework. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, gains expanded oversight, seen as more crypto-friendly than the Security Exchange Commission. And lastly, the market access. It allows banks, non-banks, credit unions, and companies, such as FinTechs, retailers like Amazon or Walmart, to issue themselves stablecoins, potentially expanding their use in payments and trading. This could reduce reliance on traditional payment networks like Visa or MasterCard and lowering transaction fees.
Massive news. It's massive news. It's going to be that's really good for the ecosystem.
So bullish, isn't it? So bullish.
Oh, massive. I got a big fat ball in the garden. Bullish, mate. It's you don't get more bullish than
we
this.
are bull on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we are bull on.
I got a big fat bull in the pants.
Do you know the reason? When I looked at that XRP price recently, do you remember what I told you was my target top for this one? Do you remember what I said it was?
You said around 350.
Yeah, 360. Yeah, so $3.60. I done that was a trade I've got in. So I'm like, I didn't know that had hit that today. So I've only just looked at it and gone, it's it's on. But I had that as a top. So it's very weird. This news comes out around this time, but that news is massive for the ecosystem. Hopefully we get loads on the XRPL. Huh?
When does the case get dropped? Because that's got to be soon as well. Soon, isn't it? That's not far off, is it?
I don't know really where it sits.
They're saying the next 2 weeks, but then they've been saying the next 2 weeks for the last 5 months.
Wouldn't that be coincidental in the middle of a bull run, and suddenly the case gets dropped? Wouldn't that just be coincidence?
Just as Bitcoin dominance is about to drop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 61.
There's also two more laws that are going to be signed in effect. I think one of them is today, and one of them maybe tomorrow or Tuesday. So each one of those is going to have different provisions for actual crypto companies outside of stablecoins. So we'll see.
So if anyone down in the audience likes to join in the conversation, please put your hand up. We love people getting involved. Please write in the comments box. Please, any comments you like. We absolutely love hearing from people that are listening. The shows are recorded. You can go back to the very beginning and you can listen to the intro. You can watch all of our shows on the website and also on our YouTube channel, which is growing nicely. The other bit of information I wanted to drop on you, and I don't know how you feel about this, Dan, is that, again, I'm sorry to go back to Hugo and the Flare team, but he was saying something about, Flare are able to do transactions directly from the XRPL. Do you know anything about how that's achieved?
I caught a read on that actually. Yeah. So, was it, do transactions on the XRPL that affect Flare, or transactions on Flare that affect the XRPL? Which way around was it again?
That affect the XRPL. So you can do transactions through, and they were talking about some sort of Flare card or something, where you could use a Flare card, do a transaction, and it will represent on the XRPL. How would that work?
So a Flare running a node on the XRPL?
I don't know, Dan. You might just be able to help me.
I don't know. I imagine there's probably some people who are in the Flare community running nodes. Because actually Flare was originally, most of the people in Flare were originally the XRP community.
Yeah,
like majority. So there is a connection there. But no, to do that, I'm trying to. I don't know. Yeah, I get you. I'm not saying you can't, but. Yeah, I'm wondering where the use is for it. I'm trying to think about how it'd be done. But I did catch a glimpse of it, and I did see them Flare cards, and they look really, really good. The Flare cards look quite smart actually.
Yeah,
they look good.
Wouldn't that be good for DPMF? Yeah, and the XTX. Yeah, wouldn't it be good? Anyway, let's talk about something more important. Let's talk about XDX, XIO, and let's talk about augmented reality and 3D NFTs.
I'll start it off. I'll go back a little bit.
Go for it.
I know some people know the history. So we've always been involved in sort of that 3D AR technology. There's a couple of bits and pieces we've done. We've done a lot of research and development about 3 years ago. Done a hell of a lot. There was actually a stage where at my house, when I was living in Surrey at the time. I was living in Surrey for about 2 years, a few years ago. And I actually had normal people would have a living room with a sofa and a TV, and I had a room with tables and computers and loads of digital devices and that. And I even had developers staying with me quite a lot of the time. So we were doing a lot of testing with AR, for some capabilities coming in the future. There were some bits we put out a few years ago about it. It was mainly augmented reality, sort of, to see if you could interact one AR character with another from separate devices. And we had some success. We had characters jumping on people's hands, and an AR character would look at you as you walk around with the device, looking at the sort of the avatar on the floor. So I mean, we've done a lot of testing of that. So is that somewhere we want to go in the future? And I know most here are aware of the AVA program, massive program. We started a few years ago when XLS20 launched as NFTs. I think we delivered about 1,500 AVA characters as NFTs. But the file type, for those that aren't fully au fait with files and NFTs, the NFT was a video of the character. So the idea was that the NFT was the character and the file was the representation of which character you had. And as we released a few characters, and I wanted to distribute a load it was sort of around the world. So when we launched products and applications that related to them, there would be someone that would own it, that would be able to play it. So we gave a lot of AVAs away for free, and they're really exquisite characters. I know nearly all the panel here would have seen them. But then I came across something. It was just before we was about to release the Guardian AVA, which was one of the really difficult ones actually we built. I realized that these NFTs are not interoperable, and at the time we didn't have the technology in development to be at a stage. I sort of missed a trick, and I was like, no, if we want these to succeed in the future, because so it's a long-term perspective. If we want these to be big in the future, then these need to be interoperable on ecosystems that aren't governed by us. So I looked into it and I was like, right, we need these NFTs to be the 3D character. Not a video, not a picture of it. We need it to be the 3D concept. So we put a halt on there. And then in the development plan, we'd also had the Radical X and Zungible merge, which then became the Fusion platform. So that was a hurdle, sort of going forward. And then when Fusion was online, it was like, right, do a few bits and pieces, and then we're going to start focusing on the 3D objects. So I think we got the FBX files on Fusion as 3D objects and avatars or whatever. That came on about 4 months ago. So it's about 4 months we've been able to mint 3D characters as NFTs, but we haven't had the AR capability on, and that's where you can view the file in augmented reality from your mobile device. Well, that's about to come on, likely this week. And that's the stage I wanted to get to, so that then we would produce new NFTs, a new genre of NFTs, and deliver them to people who own them. There'll be some will go on sale as well, because we didn't deliver 100% of each character. So we will put some on sale as well in different assets, and deliver these new types of NFTs. So when you have these new AVA NFTs, you will have the 3D file is within this NFT. So later on, as innovation and technology advances, people will be able to, who own that NFT, people who develop 3D ecosystems will be able to pull that file into theirs. So we've sort of, we've given them a more interoperable NFT as opposed to a more centralized one we had initially. Now these NFTs will be able to connect to any 3D ecosystem on the XRP ledger with a mild bit of coding either side. With each 3D ecosystem, we should be able to pull the AVAs into external platforms from DPMF. And also we've provided the capability, so anyone else who's on Fusion, they'll be able to do that as well. So even though we've built the capability and it's public, but I don't want to launch it until we've got the augmented reality viewer on Fusion, and that's what's coming next. So that's the sort of the brief story so far.
Now these is going to be open source so that all metaverses can be able to code it, like you said, so they can bring in those NFTs compared to everything else that DPMF does, which is closed source.
Yeah, we do actually. We're probably one of the only projects that do new code that do closed source it. And I can elaborate why and share why. And I realized this years ago, and that's why we closed source some. So we as most are aware, we use AI in some developments. We have for years. I'm aware that the AI has always been capable of pulling open source information and rebuilding something a lot quicker than what it would take, for a developer to do. You turn months into days, if you like. So if everything on Fusion now, all of it was open source, including like the decentralized validation feature, all currency trading offers. I think there's a few projects who've actually started adding their version in as well. But if that was all open source, then an AI could rebuild Fusion in like a few days. And I could see that being a future problem. And I think it's going to be something we're going to see in the future, where open source is not going to be so popular anymore because AI is just going to completely drain the hell out of it. I already know of someone who could build like 100 NFT exchanges on one chain, where they would own all the exchanges and look like they're competing with each other, but really it's just one person. And that's quite a scary thought. I actually done a test. It was about 10 days ago. With quite some advanced software with AI trying to duplicate Fusion. Actually, I actually managed to duplicate 2 explorers on the XRPL in about 20 minutes, and not perfectly, but to a standard where you'd be like, yeah, you could use this. Looking at transactions, etc. An explorer, 2 explorers actually. So I've done them really quickly, and I know them guys took years to build what they have now. So yeah, I think open source is going to eventually become a lot more closed. And that's one of the reasons why with Fusion certain developments we don't. But with the AR stuff, we will open source it. And, that is so 3D ecosystems will be able to pull in 3D files. It won't always operate like that. Like, if you have an ecosystem on like Unreal Engine, not all files would operate that way. In fact, you have to sort of calibrate a file, if you like, a certain way for it to operate. But generally, across the board, there would be a way, and that's something we're sort of exploring, going to open source, so people can do that.
Speaking about open source and closed source, is it something that whenever Ripple gives a grant to a project, do they require them to open source it or no?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it has to be open source. Yeah. So if any grant is open source, they have to be as part of the deal. I know when we went for the like season 7 grants program, it was in the policy. Anything that we do would have to be open source, which was a little bit off-putting for some of the stuff we were doing.
So as it's
go on, sorry, mate.
Sorry, Dan. As it's a general sort of update about DPMF generally, I just wanted to ask you a question. Obviously, those that don't know, if you hold 1 XIO and you actually have XDX, you can stake it. Do you know how many wallets are actually staking their XDX with you? Do you have a rough ideas of
I know it's more than 400. It goes up a little bit week by week, I think. I mean, it's about 425, 430. When we had it, I think, I know just before I went to Africa, I think it was around 325. So, it's steadily going up. And I get quite a lot of questions on DMs about that because people get a bit confused. Someone actually messaged me about 2 days ago and he said, what platform do I connect to use the M? I said actually
Exactly.
the Yen Infinity is just on the ledger. You just have to own the assets, and it's all done automatically.
Do you think they're getting a bit
You've got-
confused about the other aspect of the staking, where where you actually have to go and log your XIO, isn't it, or something?
you
Yeah,
have
so
to
we've
deposit
done it.
elsewhere, don't you? And this just does it automatically.
Yeah, we've done it as a, it's permissionless in the sense where we don't say who can and can't receive it. So in that sense, it's permissionless. It also provides anonymity because we don't need to take any details off anyone in reference to like email, address, bank details. We don't need any of that. I know some platforms you have to log in with an email just to qualify, for receiving rewards. Well, we don't do that. Ours is done mainly with the XIO asset, which is sort of the key. That's the qualifying asset, basically where you highlight yourself on the XRP ledger to say, I would like to be a part of VM Infinity. And then we calculate how much XDX you have. And for every 1,000 XDX, you get one token. And that's done periodically, on the weekends. That's delivered. And then, so that's Yem Infinity. That's on live now. So anyone who owns an XIO asset, if you've got XDX, you might have just realized one day that you've got assets coming into your wallet.
It's got to be more than 400 people that have got XIO and XDX. I can't believe that I reckon some people are just not aware they can be staking it.
One thing
Maybe.
I was looking at some wallets because I had the same question. There still are wallets that have their RDX and have not switched it out for XIO.
No way.
There are wallets that are like that. They've I guess they must have put the wallet aside and just let it, just sleep for a while. But there are wallets that have RDX and XDX, but no XIO. So these guys are missing out on this, free money.
There is. And Joe, that was a sort of parameter I realized when we done the merge. I was like, I know the ecosystem is not as booming as it was in 2021. And I didn't feel it was fair that we would do a time limit for people to transition their RDX to XIO. Hence the reason we put on a passive flag, which is a specific transaction on the XRP ledger, which does not involve the XRP currency as a middle asset. It's a direct swap. So for every 10 RDX a user would have, or a person, they would be able to swap directly to one XIO. Now that's staying on. In fact, it was Mr. Live Free tipped me off recently. The allocation actually started getting quite low. So somewhere the maths was wrong, so I had to top it up. But that passive flag is still on, and that will remain on. So anyone who comes back online in, let's say in a year's time, someone's like, I've got this RDX and I don't know what to do with it. And they they can switch to XIO without losing any value per se, and as in a direct swap. They don't have to sell it to then rebuy, at a higher price. And that will remain on, and that will keep remaining on until all the RDX is gone. I did actually have a guy, I think he was on our Telegram group actually. He asked about the switch recently, didn't he? Sent a video to him to how to do it, which was done by Mr. Bob Crypto. He done the voiceover for it. And he, give the thumbs up. Yeah, happy done it. Nice and easy. And it's not a hard thing to do. I think it's quite scary, but we definitely, out of the transitions that have happened on the ledger when it comes to asset merging and stuff, ours was very successful. That would be why the RDX currency has these bips of people buying it, because they're buying it with arbitrage trading to then swap it into more XIO. But the RDX assets are limited. They're not going to be around forever. There's only a limited supply. So as XIO does well in the future with value, RDX will follow, because people will buy it cheaper to switch it out until eventually all that RDX is taken back in. And then we've done a complete asset merge, and it was a success. I tipped off a few people on the XRPL who have done merges, and I said, look, do you want a hand with it? You should use the passive flag. And usually they just do a direct swap on the ledger, which isn't a passive flag, and it kind of just rolls over, and it doesn't do very well. But ours was a success and still is. In fact, I think there's been transactions more recently, especially since I've come back from Africa. I've noticed there's been a lot more.
Are we on point for the roadmap? I mean, when's the second part of the...
Well, I didn't know I was going to Africa or how long for. When I went, so I said to the development team, I gave a series of tasks. Where I was like, let's get this to here, this to here, this to here. Do that while I'm away, because I know some of you guys here know I was in the dark for a short while. So development continued even while I was away. And in fact, a lot of the team at DPMFLive are very grateful for, because they sustained a lot of stuff on social media, while I was away. That is fantastic. I think the only, time people noticed I wasn't around was when I wasn't on Telegram. Because normally I would talk on there every day. So a few people noticed that Dan hasn't been here for like a week. Where did he go? And then fortunately the team were able to explain, I'm just away, on a trip, and I'll be back. And I think a few people got worried I wasn't coming back. Which was never the case. I was always going to come back. But that did, in terms of development, it did slow things down because I couldn't audit and nitpick and adjust, and scriptable detail with some stuff we were doing. But there was a lot of stuff that happened concurrently. So it didn't stop, but it did get in the way. And I haven't fully analysed where we sit on the roadmap yet, as in how I don't think we're 3 months behind, even though I was away for just come up to 3 months. We're probably about 2 months behind, which is not bad. So moving forward, the development plan is the same relating to Fusion, because I know I put a roadmap out for it. The plan is still exactly the same. It's just the timing might slip slightly. But I know we have all currency minting coming on after this. That's had a lot of R&D, and we've got the trust set validation for Fusion. Both of them, very, very powerful developments. One, because it's all currencies for minting, which is permissionless. And the trust set validation is another form of passive income, on Fusion. Decentralized passive income, may I add, with the only platform on the XRP ledger which has a passive income feature which does not come from the central source. Do you want me to repeat that?
Go on.
We're the only platform on the XRP ledger that does a passive income feature which does not come from the central source. We're the only one that's done it, and we're going to have a second one. We're about to do 2.
I love the way you're groundbreaking, Dan. Groundbreaking. I wasn't quick enough with the jump with the old, the siren, but yeah, it's a lovely piece to be able to be doing that. That's very good. What about?
Well, we've had a load of success over time. We was first to do an RLUSD trade for NFTs on the ledger. The first 2, actually. I think that was on Ethereum as well. So if you compare XRP and Ethereum, I think DPMF was the first, so it's on the blockchain, where we got the first trade in via our platform. It was one of our own NFTs, coincidentally, which we had on around the same time. So there's been a few sort of world records along the way. And don't make no mistake, it's not me on my own. There's a whole host of people in the background that are involved for all kinds of different things. It is really a team effort. It is not like, I come up here on the DPMF handle and start, you could call it bragging a bit, saying, we've done this and done that. But actually there is a massive team behind the scenes that people don't even know exists. Absolutely. And as we start launching more products, it'll start coming to light, how good it's going to be. And there is obviously a lot of people in the background.
How far are we away from the M Part 2? The bit where I believe you can go weekly and claim, if that makes sense.
We're not as far as you might think, but the M Part 2, I know that's a favourite for everyone. So the M Part 2 is a passive earning feature, yield earning mechanism. It is not an easy build. it's actually very complex. 4 main points have to function for it to operate, and it doesn't need overly too much sort of you could say R&D testing, etc. But I want to be very careful with it, because we're utilizing more than one XLS protocol, and we're rewarding assets that we don't actually own at the time. In this new way of a yield earning mechanism, it's not as far away as you might think. It's just, I want to get a series of steps out of the way before getting to that point. I know everyone is a big fan of passive income, and I am too. And I'm a fan of sustainable passive income. Not something where you're just throwing rewards at people until the well dries up and then you have to fold. I want it to be sustainable, and that's where the YEM word comes from, yield earning mechanism. But part 2 is a way which hasn't been done before ever on any chain, and it's perfect for a layer 1. It's absolutely bloody perfect. But it's also, I've said this before, it could also be dangerous in the wrong hands. So it would be a closed source development. This wouldn't be an open source development. And it'd have to be used responsibly. I can kind of see if someone was to do something similar with malicious intent, they could do damage, because you're literally, you in the whole ledger, rewarding people with what they want to be rewarded with. But it's really bullish for the ecosystem actually as well. So if you was to pick a meme coin and say, right, you're on YEM part 2, I want to be rewarded in such and such meme coin, we're taking it off the market. So it's being bought up. You could always ask, well, how does that actually operate? And that's where then 4 vital points come in. Which is confidential before you ask.
I've got a few more questions, but I'm sure Mike and Liv have got some questions. Go for it.
I was going to say, it's like, I think we need to talk a little bit about the 3D augmented reality NFTs. What are they, and what can you do with them? Where can you use them? That we've completely skipped that topic.
Yeah, we're just going over updates.
I was waiting for this part.
Yeah. So currently we have on Fusion the capability for just FBX files as 3D files. So that can be avatars, objects, vehicles, whatever you are as a digital designer, you've created in 3D, you can now turn it into an NFT. We've added a addition on there, which we've been trialing, which is called MetaConfig. For short, it's metaverse configuration. All it is additional metadata that's included in the NFT, which acts as an identifier for when the NFT is attached to other 3D ecosystems, or when you connect to use it. So, for example, one of the MetaConfig options is avatar. Yeah, so when you connect to, say, another 3D ecosystem and they allow 3D NFTs to connect, that 3D ecosystem would identify, okay, this is an avatar. That means it's a humanoid avatar, walks around. Yeah, so it would need a rig and a skeleton, etc. Then there's like 3D vehicle, car. So that identifier, a 3D ecosystem, would identify this NFT as a car, and then it would move around as a car. Now, the 3D ecosystem, we partnered with Expector at the start of the year. We're working with them, doing some R&D, with one of their, with a plot of land, basically. So as Fusion upgrades, other people who want to utilize 3D NFTs, they will be able to test it in Expector on our test area. So we will be manually coding the capability to pull the NFT into the 3D ecosystem. And I think Dirk, I think he's going to allow, I think he is. He said, at first he said they only wanted the agents to run around in Expector, unless it was on your sort of plot area. But I think he's leaning more the other way now. I think he's going to have it where, you can pull your NFTs in. And I know they're doing some other stuff in development with avatars and et cetera as well. So it sounds like they've got some really exciting stuff coming. But yeah, for us, so we will have a test area. So you could actually create a test NFT and then test that you can pull it into Expector and run around. And you'd be like, yeah, okay, that works. Right. I'm going to create some more under this configuration, and then sell them. So then they'll operate on Expector. Then any other 3D ecosystem. So we'll reach out to a few others. I know you guys are aware, sort of briefly reached out to FirstX. But we'll speak to a few other 3D ecosystems and we'll try and get these NFTs running on more than one 3D ecosystem, and then have it where, like online games and other traditional kind of games, we'll be able to pull them NFTs into them as well. Because you could still do it on a game that already exists. I think I used Grand Theft Auto as an example last time we spoke about this. If GTA, Rockstar, were to say, right, we're going to allow NFTs from the XRP ledger to come into our game, they could do it on one of their older games. All you'd have to do is connect and pull the file in. I make it's a lot more complex than that. I'm not doing but what I'm saying is it can be done. It's just not really being looked at. But the overall goal is to have 3D NFTs interoperable with 3D ecosystems. So not just sort of the centralized one. And we're doing it with the AVA program. So our AVAs will run on our application, on the training app that I'm looking to launch this year. But then they'll also be able to run around an Expector as that AVA as well, as their AVA character. And then we've got full-on interoperability with 3D avatars, objects, and items.
Now, these 3D NFTs are going to be dynamic to where you can switch out the meta config, give them weapons and give them uniforms and helmets and different patches and stuff like that. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. So the dynamic NFTs, I know it recently got passed on the XRPL. I can't remember the XLS number. It was months ago I was reading about it.
I think it was XLS 46, no?
That rings a bell. Might be 46. It was done by Vet from XRP Cafe, I believe. Yes, it was, yeah. But the dynamic NFTs, that will play a big role on our AVA app. But if we were to say do an area in Expector and we wanted to upgrade our AVAs, then our issuer, we would essentially be able to do that. So you could upgrade your NFTs in multiple ecosystems. We're doing the dynamic NFTs, so we'll be doing them going forward. I would expect that over time we'll see more developers and game developers come in who are going to want to utilize that as well. I'll lean a little bit on the AVA program here. I know Mr. Live Free will be aware of this, so apologies if it's echoing. With the AVA program, I always wanted to have an NFT as a character that you could either train or play in a game, gain experience and increase its attributes and points, and then sell it for more money than you paid for it. That's simple. That's what the AVA program is really about. Being able to play in a sort of game finance ecosystem where you utilize your character through time and it gets stronger, and then you can sell it. So your time isn't essentially wasted playing a video game. The character upgrades depending on what it is you do. That's exactly what we're doing with the AVA program. And ideally, if we want these AVAs to operate in other 3D ecosystems, so they're completely interoperable, we need to have this new genre of NFTs. We need to have it as a 3D file, not as a video, not as a picture. We need to have it as the 3D actual file, so we can pull it into other 3D ecosystems. And then we've got full interoperability, and then we've got our own apps that it runs on as well. So that's where we're going with it. Just to touch on that's where NFTs are going in terms of GameFi. That's where they're going. Then they was always going that way. Even when we first come on the ledger, that was always where we was going. I don't think we've ever said anything different. It's just we never had the technology developed to carry on. We had to keep, work on this bit, work here, work there. But now we're at a stage where we're there and the AVA program can come back online.
Now, when you say the AVA app, are you talking about a DApp or are you talking about a website? It would be a PC.
It would be classed as a DApp, a decentralized app, because it's a self-custody application. So you would connect to it with your AVA. And if you upgrade the AVA, the metadata, the dynamic NFT would be the metadata would be added on the dynamic NFT. So you're always in ownership of what's in value. Like if the AVA training app just collapsed one day, you'd be like, well, actually, I've still got my AVA and the assets I paid to upgrade it, it's still upgraded. So the first part that's going to be released is a training application. The training application, I've actually been working on it the past few days, will have the capability to train your character where you don't have to put any value into it. So you train it. It will have the capability for you to pay to upgrade your character. So you put in value into the character, which then raises the value of the character. And you'll also be able to create your own character. So the AVA program had a limitation that I sort of overlooked a few years ago, where you could only have a certain amount of characters that would play on the AVA program, because it would be however many AVAs exist. And then I know the panel up here would be aware, months ago we combined I made a decision to combine the X Squad program and the AVA program. So what that means is, with the AVAs running on the AVA training app, when you create a character, you're now creating a character for the X Squad, which is like a faction against the AVAs. So you imagine two sides fighting each other. You've got the AVAs and the X Squad characters. So you can create so a normal person can come on and create a character. As in someone who doesn't even know what the AVA program is, they can create a character, and then join in on the game as well, on the training app, joining in training anyway, and build up their character and eventually mint it as well. So you can mint it on chain. So they have a character that they own and they can trade it and upgrade it.
So will other people be able to bring in their own, like you said, other people are going to be able to make characters? So
that's right, yeah.
Other factions that will be able to come into this. So they'll be like, is this going to be like an open, like sort of war zone kind of game?
You're kind of going that way. Now, about 3 years ago, the lead developer of the designs of the AVA characters, her her code name was Ava. That's not actually her real name. She was quite well known on social media for a while. And when we got an office in China, she went over there to work over there, because that was where all the gamefied, the design work was. And that was really what she was good at. So she went over to China and has been operating from there ever since. And she's currently one of the developers involved in the AVA application, in the AVA program. So she's actually involved in the game development of it right now as we speak. I needed there has to be a training application. So if you want to upgrade strength, you would play a certain style of game with the character to upgrade its strength. If you want to upgrade its health, the AVA's health or the actual character's health, then you would play a certain game to upgrade the health. So it's like 10 games in one, but each game upgrades different attributes depending which type it is. And that's a training app, so you're not actually even competing with anyone yet. So you could spend hours, days, weeks just training to upgrade a character and then sell it. You could. I kind of have a weird thought that in like a decade's time or something, there'd be people that would just create characters and train them to a certain level and then just sell them as a business. It could essentially just be a side hustle business, building characters and training them. So there's going to be a dedicated training app. So it's purely for training your character, and that would be the one you create one on. Then later on, there would be a branch off to it. So it wouldn't actually be that application. It'd be a separate one where it would be fighting and competing with each other to earn assets. So it'd be like, I would offer to fight Live Free, and we'd meet in the arena. We'd put up a certain amount of assets, and we'd, basically kick the crap out of each other, and whoever wins gets them assets. So that's a whole nother ecosystem there. That's a whole nother arena, and there's lots of different ways of doing that, where you have like 2-on-2, 1-on-1 weapons, and we actually have some of that already done. But we're lacking a slight bit of a XLS protocol on that one. So that one can wait. So we can launch the training app first. People can train their AVAs for a few months, and then we can look at launching the next part. Now, Ava has a pretty big dream with the AVA program. She does want to do a free roaming world, not just world, I'm on about like universe, planets and stuff. She wants to go big with it. Where now we've had discussions about this, about, you know, how would we go about getting there? The training app and competing with each other is no issue, you know, but when you start going to something that big, then there's a lot of, moving parts, and that's all basically done with a MetaMart. So all this stuff is done concurrently, while we're on this blockchain side, you know, doing Fusion and a few other little bits and pieces in crypto. The MetaMart will doing this concurrently, and they've built the MetaMart in China have built a lot of games for clients and customers. They've built an awful lot of digital design stuff. It's a very, very experienced team over there, and a few of them they're in consensus to say, look, we want to call it AVA Star. This is the first time I've ever spoken about this. Now that's not concrete. That's a possible a possible solution of where the AVA program will go. It would depend how successful it is. And I know in Asia, when Ava was over there, she actually shared some prints we have of the Ava characters that we've never really shown them on social media, but like some really big blow up images of like the XDX Ava, RDX Ava, Atomic, he was blown up, and in Asia they loved it. They absolutely loved it. They thought it was absolutely amazing. So I think it will take off. A lot of the Asian community, you know, really love these robots, these cyborgs. But the end goal would be, if we're to do it, and I'd say as a company, we probably have to mature a bit more, before doing something that big like Ava Star. We already do quite a lot, you know, to build a sort of massive multiplayer online game where you've got Avas and X squads in a universe, and that's actually where the storyline goes with Ava Chronicles, which Wes on the panel is writing as well. That's a really big project, and I wouldn't put my thumb down on it and say, right, you know, we're doing this unless I was certain we were going to succeed with it. And that's one project I look at it and I go, I don't know if we can pull it off because it's so big. But if the Avas are successful as characters, if the training app is successful and the PvP app is a liftoff, then we'll probably do it.
If anyone can do it, if anyone can do it and it can be done, you can do it. DPMF can definitely do it.
You know what?
Yeah, I know how hard it is to build large 3D ecosystems. Like I take my hat off to Dirk, you know, building Expector. I completely understand the hurdles and challenges that he has to go through to get there, and it's not something I've ever wanted on my plate. But I've got a team who can probably pull it off quite well, who are asking me to do it, and I haven't said yes. So at the moment, there's two. That's where we're going with it, Mike. So you'll see 2 applications come out for the AVA program.
That's that's fantastic. I wanted to ask a little bit of technical info. So, say for example, there's a project that wants to, because I remember when we were talking about this as well, you were saying it's all interoperable. So everything that's on, everything will work within all the different metaverses, won't they?
That's the aim. So they are prepared to be interoperable. Then we have to do the next stage after this, where we actually make them interoperable, and that's why we open source the code, etc.
Right. So from an external sort of place, say for example, I had characters that I wanted to make and utilize this system. So I'll speak through the process, and you can tell me if I'm right. So if I was to create the 3D NFT, so making sure I got a character that's got a skeleton and is and rigged so that it can walk around in the metaverse, then I would convert it in, use DPMF to convert it into the file type that can be used in the metaverse. Once I'm in that metaverse, how would I then connect to Ava to be able to train those characters up? Is that something that's going to be possible?
So on the Ava app, we will do it. So with character creation, we would do it where the humanoid and the rig is already in place. and then you design. So, but there'll be some limitations and a bit of confinement on ours because we have stuff like picking up weapons and guns and that. If you create a character without hands, he's going to have floating. He's going to be running around with guns floating in front of him.
Yeah.
So, do you see what I mean? So
yeah. So there'll be guidelines to create.
So we will do. Yeah, we in terms of the AVA app, we will have a baseline where we assist, and you'll be able to take that file and you put it somewhere else. With Fusion now, you can create a dragon as an FBX file or GLB file or whatever. You could create any kind of monster, multiple arms and legs, and if you've got a skeleton in it, kind of so be it. The complexities of getting that moving in a 3D ecosystem, there is a lot of complexities there. The more complex the character, but at the moment, I'd probably advise humanoid characters for now, because this is actually a very early sort of. It's not an innovation that's new, but we're really early in it. This is like a long-term thing. I know people probably all seen. Is it Player One, online Player One, or whatever it's called?
Yeah, fantastic.
I watched it years ago. We probably will go into a world like that. We'll go into a multi-currency world. I believe that, but we're also going to go into a world where digital characters and digital information is all. I think augmented reality is going to be the big one of the future. Not many people talk about it. Many people talk about VR, or XR and MR is quite popular, but not many people talk about AR, like where you'd wear a set of glasses and you'd see like a Pokemon character running around in your garden. I can see a lot of that be in the future, which isn't spoken of much, and that's why I've always been so keen to lean more on the AR side of everything, as opposed to the sort of just being in a game. But yeah, sorry, with the Fusion, when you add a file on Fusion, there's a category on there. It's called the metaconfig I was talking about earlier. If you just add what that is, that's laying the foundations for what we're doing next. So if it's a car, it'll say like vehicle car or vehicle helicopter, vehicle plane, whatever it is you've designed, because it can be anything. That small amount of metadata is just an identifier, so the 3D ecosystem knows how that's going to move, because you wouldn't want to create like a car and then you go into a 3D ecosystem and the car's trying to run, or it's sticking up vertical. The 3D ecosystems also have to play a role here, where they do a bit of R&D to how this is going to work. Because I haven't really, I have no doubt actually there's going to be someone else that's doing this kind of stuff out there, but I haven't really come across them. Most people who do 3D files and objects, usually it's just they aim to have it just work with their game only. But we want to provide the capability for people to produce 3D NFTs that are interoperable everywhere. And our metaconfig is sort of a baseline that may adjust slightly. We may add some, we may remove some. But if you've got the metaconfig on there, as we do developments and work with partners, there'll come a stage where it'll be like, right, I can connect my NFT there now it can operate. And that's what we're doing with Expector, with the plot of land and the test ecosystem we've got. So you don't have to just sell like 100 of these 3D NFTs and worry if they're going to operate. You could just create one and then test it via our ecosystem in Expector and be like, yeah, this works. I can run around as this avatar. And you'd be like, okay, so now I know I can sell these because they do what I need. So we've got a test area for the public, if you like. So when you create your 3D avatar, you could reach out and say, Dan, I've minted it. What do I do next? I say, connect to our ecosystem, select the NFT and see if you can run around. And if you can't, then that's where the research and development comes in, where we adjust it.
And make sure it has hands.
Yeah, so I
can hold a cup of coffee.
It's a little bit upsetting because we've got one AVA people have seen, which I'm adjusting, doesn't have hands, and there's another two which people haven't seen, which doesn't have hands. It's like that. So and one thing we didn't realise in design is we've just added a limitation that this character cannot pick up weapons, and realistically cannot. If the AVA character is the size of a car, it also cannot get in a car because
Yeah.
So now we give a bit more thought into the AVA characters, if you like, where it's like, we don't want to limit it too much. But if it can't do something like that, then it's got a more sort of powerful use case as a character, if you like a bit like a big boss in a video game.
So there'll be sort of like anyone who wants to implement themselves in that system, there'll be guidelines for them to follow to make sure whatever they create is in line with basically.
So it would be to the public. So what I'm saying is reasonably complex. In fact, it's actually very complex. In fact, I'm not even elaborating how fucking complex it really is. But when it comes to the public using it, I'm a big fan. It has to be as easy as possible. It has to be as simple as possible. So when you create a character like on the Ava app, when you create that character, you're already aware, okay, this is the rig and the skeleton I've heard about. That's the avatar, and I'm just dressing him up, or I'm just adding this and that. Okay, and then every step up until minting has to be easy, because if people don't get it, or they get put off by creating the character, then what's going to happen is no one's going to use it. And we've now got because we've got this character creation, we don't have a limited supply of players. So with the AVA program, we're going for global adoption here. We're going for people everyone wants to be on this app. That's where we're going with that. And we have to bring in the general public, people who are not even on the XRPL. And it has to be people, able to use that, where they even create a character, play the game. And unless they have a wallet, they can't mint the characters. They can still play it. And that's where we're going. And then if they want to play PvP, they're going to have a wallet. So it could also act as a driver for people to have a self-custody wallet, which relates to a little bit of what we was discussing earlier, Livery, in terms of launching stuff. So yeah, does that kind of answer your questions, Mike? I know you've probably got quite a few.
Yeah, no, I'll think of more as I go along. I think for me it was more just the technicalities, because obviously that the different things that I'm doing. I've got a project that I'm trying to. Well, I've already created the NFTs, but I'm trying to bring them into that world. Because until I met you, I wasn't aware of how far these things have come. Because DPMF have done bloody well. I sort of you remember, I came and I was just shocked with everything you've done and the progress that you've made. And now
I do remember. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and so I sort of started my project, and then I thought, I think I need to bring it forward a bit more into this world. So now I'm trying to sort of bring it more into what like the 3D NFTs and try and get it into the metaverse, which is where your technology and everything that you're doing is everything that you're doing is.
It's not an easy road, believe me. There's been many times over the years, I've wanted to rip my hair out, with stressing over, probably quite small things now, but at the time, it's not an easy journey. And, I'm here for the innovation. I really like the technology, make no mistake. I love the technology. But I never wanted to come onto a network and build where people couldn't take advantage of using what we do either. So pretty much anything that we're able to do is generally open to the public. We're not like developing stuff and sort of not allowing people to use it. Even our decentralized validation system, as an example, on Fusion, you start with a grey check mark. When you get to 100 points, you'll get a blue check mark, and when you get to 10,000 points, you'll get a gold check mark. Well, we built the platform, and we followed the same rules as everyone else to get validation score. And in fact, Live Free got a gold check mark before the company account. When we're responsible for building the platform. That's how decentralized we was for validation, but we didn't cut any corners. We obviously hold more XIO, which makes us more powerful, in terms of being validators and stuff. But we did also build it. But we didn't shortcut ourselves where we give ourselves a gold check mark. We have the same sort of capability as everyone else, and that's the way it's always going to be going forward. We'll always, when we have a new technology, we'll allow the public to use it. And when it comes to this 3D stuff, these kind of NFTs are exactly where I wanted. This is exactly where I wanted to be years ago. This is where I wanted to get to, because this is what I like about NFTs. I own JPEGs and PNG file NFTs, and I own some pictures, and I've bought some off the community on Fusion, to support them. But I'm really here for a different type of NFT, and now we're going down that road where I've wanted to be for so long, and now I'm at like a new start point where we're going to evolve, on the network. And the way we're doing NFTs, we're successful with this. I say if, we're not going to stop till we're done, but it could actually put the XRP ledger as a network for NFTs a step above. I know XRP Cafe, they've got 3D NFTs on their platform, but we're doing slightly different because we have metaconfig, etc. We're actually we have the 3D files for a reason, and we want to give a reason for people to own them. I think it's going to play a really big part in GameFi in the future. I mean, everyone loves gaming. Who doesn't love gaming? And if you're going to play a game, there's nothing better than building your own character, or being yourself, building you and running around in a game and then selling you.
You've got the time. It's the time aspect, isn't it? Because how long it takes to build a character, and the hours and hours people spend playing the game. Now it's not going to all be sort of wasted. Obviously, I know they get pleasure out of playing, but now it's going to have a purpose. So
here's something interesting as well, which puts us in quite a positive position for the future. So I was talking to someone the other day about, I put some statistics out on my personal X handle the other day, it might have been yesterday, about the number of assets circulating on the XRP ledger, which I think is like 54,790 something. And it was like, well, how many of them are alive? And I said, I generously estimate there'd be about 200. And that's about 99.6 or 7% of assets on the XRP ledger are no more, basically. And I started thinking about this, and I thought, actually, most people would look at that on a network perspective as being pretty bad. And, it would pretty much, arguably, anyone who takes an exchange fee on any platform has benefited from malicious activity, essentially. But I started thinking about this, and most people would look at it and go, yeah, that sounds pretty bad. I go, well, actually, if you actually peel back and think about this, 54,000 assets are now dead. So, there's only like 200 left. Anyone that's invested in the XRPL is going to be channeled into them areas. And that's not like what it was in 2021. There were hundreds of assets launching every day. Now it's a lot slower, and people are a bit more savvy. And it also means that actually anyone who does launch a new asset is generally a 99 points, I think it's 5 or 7%, have that as a fail rate. And that's quite high. But with all their assets that have disappeared from the ledger, it channels into the ones who are still here. We've been here for 4 years, 2021. We started on the XRPL. We've been here. We're one of the old ones. We're not the oldest, but we are one of the older ones. So I see a lot of value. If people start seeing XRPL assets to be, really decent investment vehicles, there's going to be a hell of a lot of value flying quite quick. And it also puts us at an advantage as well going forward, because we do a lot of R&D, and we do a lot of research and development. We do a lot of analyzing with what we can do with blockchain, and that's put us in a unique position now, because we've got years of stuff we've been building, absolute years. It's not just blockchain tech. We're on about digital design, all kinds of different software related to digital design. I mean, I know everyone here's seen what the MetaMart can do. Some of their designs are outstanding, and they're the ones that design the AVA program. But that puts us in a unique position going forward, because if anyone else was to go down the road we went in 2021, let's just say they didn't have the hurdles, let's just say they were to build out everything step by step, it would take them years to get to where we are. You know, in essence, it would take years, considering some code we've got isn't even open source. So we're ahead on that as well. So yeah, when I thought about it, I was like, actually, I'm incredibly bullish for where we're going to be in the future, because we're in a very unique position, and we have some pretty cool shit about to come out the door, and I'm excited to get it out. I know there was someone the other day, he said, what's happening with the AVA program? It's been 18 months since I heard anything, or 2 years or something. I said, funnily enough, you should say that, because it took us that many years to get to the point to develop, to get to where we want to go. You know, it's not like we completely wanted to pause it. We had to take certain steps to get to where we are now. So it's a very exciting time for us here. Yeah, I'm actually over the moon about it. I can't wait to get the AVA training app on.
Sorry, Palace.
Talking about good shit, tonight's show is brought to you by FUZION XIO. It is the only place on the XRPL where you can validate your own profile. You can buy, sell, mint your NFTs, your artwork. Go check it out. You're missing out.
I was hoping you're going to go on a bit longer then. I just ate a bit cheese.
Carry on, Dan.
Well, I think you need a breath. I think you need a breath. You've been talking solidly for about 10 minutes. I thought you need a slip and a cup of tea.
I'm going to I'll take a tactical pause. I'll let you take over the questions.
I have actually got a couple of questions for you. All right. So take a slurp on your cup of tea, and I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and you think about your answers. All right. So I want you to update me on merch. I want to see some merch. I really want merch. All right. I get a thing about.
Can I answer it?
I want to. Yeah, no, not yet, because I've got another question as well. Keep drinking on your cup of tea, because you've probably got a sore throat already.
Dip a rich tea biscuit in it. Dip a rich tea biscuit in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My other question is more of a personal one, because you have got so many plates that you're spinning at once. How do you prioritize everything that's going on? How do you prioritize what is really important to DPMF at the moment? I mean, how do you manage all these different plates that are spinning at the same time?
He eats cheats and drinks tea.
Yeah. So to start with the last question you just asked, it actually comes down to team. It doesn't come down to me alone, if I'm honest with you. So there'll be occasions where I will have, I'll just away for 3 months. I've had some fantastic people, and it's grown actually. People I've worked with has grown, especially this year. I've had some fantastic people work with us and support what we do, behind the scenes that people don't really see. Some of you guys up in here in this, lovely panel. In fact, I'd argue everyone in this space. So when it comes down to, how do you manage that? There are times where it is difficult. I remember a specific time I was in Italy, and I was talking to, it was the MetaMart actually. We had too much work coming in from China. Too much work where we didn't have enough developers and designers for a certain project. One project actually involved 20 Maya developers, and we only had something like 6 or 8 or something at the time. And it was like, we're turning down jobs worth like, that were pulling like 30, 40 grand in a week or something like that. We had to start turning them down. And that was stressful. I lost my rag with a few people on that, but, no, when it comes down to managing stuff, it generally does look like it's me on my own, I guess, a lot of the time. But it's actually really not. There's many different people in different areas doing different things. And it's them. It would be why I'm able to sort of sustain things. There's no way I'd be able to do this on my own. I listen to people's recommendations. I ask people, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I was actually having a conversation today, and I got given a recommendation. And I said, let's stick, if that's what you want to do, let's try that. And he goes, well, you're the boss, it's your decision. I said, yeah, but this is your idea. I said, I'm willing to roll with it, so let's do that. So I do listen to people. And generally, the advice I get from people, even in DPMF labs, the advice I get from people is not actually often that wrong. It's generally actually quite right, and it's sometimes nice to hear a second voice on it when I'm thinking it in my mind. Live Free does it quite a lot. I think something in my mind, I don't say anything, and he'll bring it up. So yeah, it comes down to team. Actually, it just comes down to people. Raylene as an example, for months, tried finding someone who could do video editing for YouTube. Could I find anyone? No, I could not. Could I? Hell, I even tried doing it myself, and I was terrible at it. Raylene has taken that on and pretty much managed it with very little direction. So so I don't have to worry about that. She does a fantastic job at it, and I know you guys have all seen her work. So we get a lot of good people like that. When it comes down to development, I probably lean more in that, where that takes up most of my time. And it's usually tying a few things together which aren't normal, and then trying to get the public to look at it as being normal, if that kind of makes sense. That's usually what most of my time is. But no, yeah, bottom line is it comes down to people, actually. That's the first one.
100%. So what about my first question about the merch? Fusion needs a shop where I can go and use my XDX to go and buy something from XDX.
It does. I know we've spoken before about doing merchandise, and the reason I didn't do it was because I didn't want to take cash only payments or credit card payments. I wanted to be able to take crypto. And a few years ago, he was back and forth on that. I know Live Free will be aware of this. We have a merch lab now at DPMF Labs. We've had it for a few months with Chris. He's from sort of East Anglia area, and he is in preparation of building a stuff to do with merch. I'm just wondering now how far I can go with this. But to put it simply, there's a plan involved of some pretty decent stuff, involving DPMF merchandise. And Chris, who's in the merch lab, he is, currently working on that right now.
Good answer. Thank you. If anyone else in the audience has got a question for our amazing leader, Dan, the man, please put a comments in the comments box, or put your hand up and come on up and have a chat with us. We're a friendly bunch, I promise. Anyone else on the panel got some questions?
Do you know Wes has been a bit quiet this evening, hasn't he?
He's been really quiet. I think he's in the cupboard.
I am relegated to the cupboard, and I've also been sneakily eating a Chinese takeaway in between, so I do apologise.
What you got, Wes? Talk us through your order.
Oh, I got combination starter box number B. That consists of 2 spare ribs, 2 chicken satay, a bit of prawn toast, a chicken ball, and 2 wontons as well. Very nice.
Oh, bloody hell, that's a fantastic, you need, give me your takeaway later, because that's a good selection there, I must say.
Hey, it'll be coming from the north, but it'll take him about 4 hours to get to you.
Sounds worth it. Sounds worth it. Can I come and eat?
Are you supposed to be, hang on a minute, we've got Palace here who's pretty much a doctor. Are you supposed to be eating all that?
No, I'm not. I have absolutely neglected myself today. It's been one of those fat, lazy Sundays.
Sometimes
I'll tell you what,
Chinese.
While Wes is on, I've got a question for Wes related to what we do, because I know Wes is a bit of a part of it. So, as most are aware, we've put out a few snippets, more so recently. The AVA program has a storyline that's coming out. So it's a storyline including all the characters. We've had to build a new character to actually complement the story. So there's a specific AVA character coming out. And while I was in Africa, I was doing some notes, and I shared an idea with Wes. And I've shared with him, the sort of storyline of where we're going with it. And it complements in a way, it complements the way the AVA, sort of the AVA training app and the PvP thing is coming. It complements that in the story and such. I'm trying to say it without saying it. Basically, you would be able to create your own character, and the way the storyline goes, it would make sense that you could create your own character in any time zone, in any way. It would just, you could fit it into the story if you wanted. And, me and Wes, we had a long chat, was it about a week ago, wasn't it? Where, broken down because we had a story for Ava, the Ava Chronicles story. There's, the story had started, but there was questions, there was missing pieces. So I put it all together, shared it with Wes, and now we're building it to come out. So what's your thoughts on the story, Wes? That was my question.
My thoughts on the story is that we've been going through this process for quite a few years now. We've always had these ideas, and we've always gone the back and forth, and we've always had something there. And this sounds funny, but Dan is, in a way, a hard taskmaster. He's a perfectionist, and he's always evolving. So the dynamic world of blockchain and how the technology is moving, as the story's almost been a direct representation of that. So the story has always been changing. It's evolved and evolved and evolved. And we can both sense it now that we're pretty much there now. We've got this right. And it's a remarkable story with a huge scope. It's each time, each iteration, each improvement, my mind has expanded, the story's expanded. But this now, like you say, like Dan's alluding to, it complements the GameFi side of things. Dan hinted at an open world kind of game. Let me tell you now, this story is going to be more open world than any of us can comprehend. And that's all I'm going to give for the little snippet on it. But the scope of the story is magnificent.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. The story is. I think that good. People want to make a movie out of it, and if that happens in the far future, near future, wherever, that would be good. But it's good to have a story with the characters, because when we had the Ava characters, it was just like you imagine Tekken. A bit more the sort of 3D version. There's no backstory. Well, now there's a full story coming with all the characters explained, where they come from, and the X Squad is combined with it. So we combine the two programs together. So that was a really good move, because we was very close to launching stuff with the X Squad, and it was like there was always something missing, and it was bugging me. And putting them together has just made it into something quite epic. And I'm really excited for the AVA program is going to be fantastic. The story is just a branch that's going to, be even better. It's all going to come together quite nicely. So yeah, really excited for it. And when I shared the sort of the additions and the upgrades with Wes and where we go with the story. He was as excited as I was. So I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Very excited.
I definitely need to go over and fine tune my notes. I definitely need to do that with you. But it was a beautiful move as well with the X Squad combining with Ava. It just makes complete total sense, and it just fit like a glove and enhanced both projects, if you like.
It does. Has Darth Vader just walked in?
I was going to say,
that's what I'm wondering.
Luke,
I am your father.
No, it's good. It was. Do you know what? As well, because so we done some stuff with the X Squad characters not long ago, and we done some designs of where they were going to go, and we were going to do like a card game and build it into Fusion, like a trading card game thing. And it just kept bugging me, we can do better than this. We can do something with this, and adding them into the whole AVA program as X Squad characters, humanoid characters. So to play in a video game, it's the best thing we could have done. and you won't see it till it all starts coming out. You'll be like, this was a really good move. It's going to be good for the story, the program, the NFTs, the assets involved. It's just going to go really well. It was a right move, and I wasn't sure to do it at first. But now everything's started to come together. It's 100% the best move. Put the two together.
So Dan, where exactly is it that we're going to be able to go to play? I mean, it's still, is it, because I know the Expectiverse, you have to have your own server if you're going to be running your own, shall we say, island or situation or short part of their Expectiverse world. Do we have to, is it something that's going to be hosted by DPMF on the DPMF servers? Is it something that's going to be somewhere else in the Expectiverse where we don't have to, or do we have to log in via the Expectiverse, or is it going to be log in directly into some sort of DPMF server?
So we will do, so as I spoke of the test platform earlier, that will be by us. And that's so people can test their 3D avatars and NFTs made on Fusion. They can pull it in. That will be on ours. That will be governed by us. We are still doing, an Expector, AVA X Squad area. I know you're aware of that. That's still going to happen. So where that fits in time, I don't know which one will come first. I would probably guess it would be the AVA training app before, the island area we've spoken of before, because that's gonna take a lot of design. Well, give or take. We did have a hiccup in the game. We have a GameFi lab, but we have no GameFi leader in it. The guy's name was, what was his name again? Do you remember, Live Free? It's completely gone. Joshua. Joshua was a developer who was going to be working with us. Have I just cut out?
No, we can still hear you. You're good.
Okay,
You're good.
cool. Sorry, I just see I started cutting out. We had a developer, Joshua. He was going to be involved purely in the NFT avatars with Expector. Bit by bit. He actually used to work at Sony. He's quite a good developer, but unfortunately his father was unwell, and he said, I'm not going to be able to give my attention to this. He's basically just had to start looking after his dad. So we lost the GameFi developer in DPMF Labs, and been on the lookout for another one. So if anyone out there is interested in doing some GameFi stuff and some R&D is something new, don't be afraid to reach out, because we've got some work for you. Because we lost that lead, that has put a little bit of a slowdown on the game side. I wanted to do in Expector with AVAs and X Squad, but that's still on the table and I still plan to do it. But I think it would be the AVA training app that will come out first. And if I'm kind of want that one to come out first as well, because I want people to train their AVAs, and I want to give it a few months, and then before we go into the PvP stuff, I want to give people time to train their characters before people start fighting each other. So I think that, and that there would be it's a better business model for us. It's a better utilized role for the NFTs and assets. And then the X Squad area is more of a bit of fun, and testing the 3D ecosystem, a few bits and pieces they're doing. And, throwing some tanks and some aircraft and see what we can build and throw around.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, what you mentioned, tanks and vehicles and things of this nature. You mentioned it before. Do you think there's going to be a way to build objects, assets, vehicles such as cars, such as weaponry, things like that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. In fact, as FBX files, that's already a capability on Fusion now. I know Live3 put in an offer for one of my 3D cars. We've got on, which I didn't sell him. I think it was the first 3D file to go on the public one. But yeah, if you've got a 3D file of a car or a tank or an aircraft, you can already mint that now using the MetaConfig. That's live right now. You know, that can be done. It's that the next upgrade is just more 3D files and the augmented reality viewer. That's what's next.
But you could also, like you stated earlier, you could also go to the AVA training app and create something there.
Yeah, we would channel it though, so it would be a humanoid character. You wouldn't be able to build a tank or a car.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
okay.
we do that deliberately, because what will happen is we'll have a lot of people who can't do 3D design want to have an avatar. So we give like the sort of basic concept with a rig already inside, and then you would add attachments to it. And then that would be the character you mint. That's your character that fights in the AVA program.
Do we have any idea of what, let's say, it would cost to do something like this? For let's say somebody coming in, I want to create this AVA character. Have you thought about the cost for the consumer?
Yeah, I have. So I'm probably looking at around a sort of $5 to $10, I think, a character. I don't want to do it too cheap, because if people make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different characters. I'm expecting to see clowns running around. I'm expecting to see, I don't know, some businessman with an emoji head. I don't know, it could be anything. But I'd probably do around $5 to $10. So the NFT has a sort of value related to the AVA program as well. I'm thinking about $5 to $10. But from a business perspective, what I'll be analysing is cost of servers, any costs, running costs, etc. There's going to be some math to it, which I haven't gone over yet, but I don't plan to go more than that. Probably go as low as $1 or $2. That's probably the rough area of thinking.
Now, these same creations are going to be multiverse. You can take them. You don't necessarily have to play against AVAs. You can take them into other, shall we say, multiverses, as long as they accept that code.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So that's why we partnered with Expector in January to build out the capability. So you could build the character on the AVA program, and it would work on there because you'd mint it through our issuer. So it's essentially, in a way, qualifying would be the word. It qualifies as governed to run on the AVA program because you've created it on the AVA app, but you could trade it on an NFT exchange on the XRP ledger, and you be able to use it in 3D ecosystems. Yeah. So it's not just tied to the AVA program. You create a character on there, you'll be able to pull it into other 3D ecosystems. Yeah.
And when you train them, because they are dynamic NFTs, is there something that the owner has to do in order to go in and log in to change weapons or change this or change the meta config? Or how is that going to work?
The meta config will be fixed as just an avatar. Just an avatar. The attributes and that would already be fixed, so no one's selecting them or putting in data, and then there'd be a start, a starter points which you could adjust, but the total amount would be the same. So no user will have to adjust that. That would all be built in. So it's as simple as designing a character, and then if you want to mint it, you can, and then you can use it on the app. So you can use it on the app as not an NFT. So this is what I'm talking about by bypassing the limitations of allowing anyone to use it. So it's not just people on the XRPL. So anyone would be able to use the app to create a character. But if they don't have a self-custody wallet, they can't mint it. But they could use it on the training app. Does that kind of make sense? So that means we've opened up the audience where we're not limited to just people who own AVA characters or the XWorld characters. It's actually open to anyone. So yeah, we're sort of going for a bit of a world hit with this one. So anyone will be able to do it.
So do you need some sort?
You don't have to be on the XRPL.
So where does the dynamic aspect of it come from if you can't change the meta config?
Because what we can do is, because the character is centralized to that app until it's minted. So as it upgrades, as the character upgrades, that data is on the application. And then when you choose to mint it, the current data it has is what it is.
Totally dead.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you. I know it sounded like someone was trying to.
Yeah, allow me to explain. So if you create a character and you don't have a self-custody wallet, you would be able to train that character. So you'd have the starting attributes, and so it would have metadata, but it's not minted. Then what would happen is, if that person goes, right, I want to put this character on chain, I've been training him for a while, get a self-custody wallet, connect, say it's yours, and then you could mint the character. Now you could train a character and then mint it later on. You don't have to mint it straight away. And all that data that you've built up, that would be centralized to the app. So only when you mint it does it kind of become more open and interoperable, if that kind of makes sense. So people who are not on the XRPL will be able to play it.
So, Dan, my only confusion here is, so say when you go multi-platform and we've minted the NFT on Fusion, we've got our attributes that are in the meta config file that are in the metadata.
Just to save confusion before you continue, just save confusion. So you can mint the character on the AVA app, and then Fusion is a separate minting capability with the same capability because of meta config. If you create a character on Fusion, you can't use it on the AVA app. You have to create the character on the AVA app for it to qualify. But you can use both platforms. Okay. Does that make sense before you go on?
Yes, in a way, but still. So when we mentioned before about cross-platform capability, so you could use this NFT on another fighting platform. Is that essentially what we're getting at here?
Think of it more making the NFT interoperable with 3D ecosystem. That's where Fusion's going. So Fusion's got that as the foundations. Now we've got to do a bit of work with 3D ecosystems to tie it together. Hence the Expector partnerships. That's Fusion and Expector, kind of thing.
Well, this is my question, Dan. Do you need a handshake? Sorry, this is my question. Do you need like a consensus from all of the 3D ecosystems that they can accept these attributes and there's an agreement on which attributes to share?
Yeah, because each software, they're not all the same. All right, just so that's clear, they're all slightly different, and some won't even work. So, whoever governs the 3D ecosystem has to say, yeah, we'll implement that code, because they could say no.
That's exactly what I was wondering. You need some sort of handshake in every instance, don't you?
And I spoke to Dirk about this right at the back end of last year. I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to aim to achieve. You have a 3D ecosystem. I want to be able to allow NFTs to operate, in other 3D ecosystems. I'd like to partner with you and then, R&D and get it going, in which he agreed. But I could go to another one and say, I'd like to, make these NFTs that we mint interoperable, and they can say, no, we don't want to. We only want our NFTs to run on our on our ecosystem. We want to put a walled garden on it. So, I don't know if I know there was one. I think it was X War. I spoke to them about it because they've got a shooting. Sort of shooting game, 3D shooting game. I was like, we could, the items that you have in your game, you could mint them, and utilize in your game, but, we'd have to work together a bit. And they're over in, Russia. Really nice team, actually. I'm not even sure if they're still around anymore, but when I spoke to them last year, they were half interested, half and half interested. Now, let's just say, for example, because there's not many 3D ecosystems on the XRPL at the moment anyway. There's a handful at best. So there's not many anyway. So, worst case scenario, let's say as years go on, we do the, AVA training app and the PvP comes out and, let's say, it does well. It's like, well, we still haven't been able to interoperate, and make these NFTs interoperable that we're creating. That would be a reason to put AVA Star on. That is exactly a reason.
Do
Do you see where I'm going?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so if no one's going to work with me to do it, and it's a benefit to sort of the technology, then we'll do it. But I know Dirk's on side. We can code in our own plot, in our own 3D ecosystem, and he'll be able to see that and then utilize it with his own system if he wants to. So I know he's on side. Versex, I spoke to briefly. They use more the GLB file actually, as opposed to FBX file, and GLB file's one we've got coming on over this week. So we've got people to communicate with, and I think it would be a massive benefit to them. They may not see it now, but I think it would be a massive benefit to them because they'd have more stuff that would operate in their ecosystem. But both are very separate platforms. They're not identical technologically. They're both very different, and that's the stuff we need to R&D.
Will there be a way to mint multiple file types in one NFT?
That's a good question.
Just to cover, because what made me cover that, just as you were saying about different metaverses and one using one file type and the Expectaverse using another file type, if there was a way to cover the base file types.
So we the ones they expect to use, we already do. So they do FBX and GLB. Vertex are leaning more with GLB because they prefer the texture. I think it was something like that. So we've already got the file types of them two ecosystems they use. It's just how we pull them in together. So there's not another. I think it's like ZUSD or USDZ. I can't remember which way around it is. That's another sort of 3D file type that most don't use. And as they come up, we'll add them. If there's a benefit, especially if it's like a project, and they're like, could you add this file type? We really want to use it for ecosystem. They only have to reach out to us. We'll do it. We'll add it.
I'm curious, since you mentioned that, I'm curious if you can take, like, say, the FBX file, and then, all right, I'll go into this site, and then be able to remint it under GLB file type.
No, you couldn't just switch from FBX to GLB without a converter beforehand.
Okay.
I mean, we could add one. Do you need one?
I don't know what the future holds. Maybe.
It's mainly to do with the texture, mainly.
Going back to the AVA app you were just saying, Dan. So is there not going to be any way for an external character to then have the AVA capabilities?
There is. So allow me to elaborate. You may already create a 3D character, and have it as an NFT. But say you've made it on Fusion. If you've got the file type, if you actually own the file, you could create it into an additional character to that collection, and add it to the AVA program. You could do that.
Oh, fantastic.
So so what I mean is, if you're out there creating 3D characters now, don't worry too much, because you could, as long as you've got the file, later on when we're live, you could then turn that into an AVA, because your current 3D characters, I mean, like anyone who's got it, they won't have the attributes or the metadata in it that we're going to have on the AVA program. I mean, you might want to add them, if you get eyes on them. But as long as you've got the file type, you could make an additional character specifically for that program. So if you had a specific project, I know OVO, I'll use them as an example because I know they've got 3D characters. He might release 100 of them characters, through Fusion, so people have that 3D avatar. And then when we go live, as long as he's got the file, he could then create a few more that run on that game. And then them characters specifically would run on the AVA program, yeah.
So if I've got a character and I mint the character on Fusion, then that, because it's minted on Fusion, that will make it interoperable with I just lost my thought.
Other 3D ecosystems.
No, on the AVA.
No, it won't.
No.
No, the only ones that would are ours.
Okay.
Now let me explain how that works, because you'll be like, well, that doesn't make sense. It does if you look at the issuer. So the AVA NFTs will be under our specific DPMF issuer. that issuer will then be used on the AVA application. So when you mint, it actually comes under our issuer wallet when you mint.
Right.
So that qualifies it for the game. Otherwise, people could just pull in all kinds of stuff into like the AVA program. And we've got stuff like picking up weapons, picking up guns and stuff. It's like what I was talking about earlier. If someone creates a humanoid character with like no arms,
Yeah.
then it's not going to look very good in the game. So we'll have a basic outline as the avatar in there. But no, if any avatars made on Fusion, they won't be interoperable with the AVA program.
Okay.
Because on the AVA program app, when you create yours into an NFT, it goes through our issuer, which qualifies it then forever as part of the game.
Right. Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah. I'm just trying to.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
He says, yeah, it makes sense. But on the other side, he's just nodding his head going, what the fuck did he just say?
No. It was the main. It was the other one that I was saying that I think for
That doesn't happen till tomorrow.
What's that?
It's like, what the fuck did he just say?
Yeah, no, it does. It makes sense. It does make sense.
Oh, good, yeah.
I was just thinking.
So that's
why my own stuff in my head of how it would all work.
That's why we would be able to put AVA NFTs and XSquad, because XSquad has its own issuer as well. There is an XSquad issuer, so they'll both be operational on the AVA program. So even though they're minted and created on Fusion, they would work on the AVA app. But yeah, you'd have to be on the AVA application to create your character, to mint it via our issuer to qualify it. Because it basically it then means it's at a standard which is workable with our game. So swords and guns and stuff like that can be picked up, and there'll be certain AVAs that we'll have which will manually code which can't pick up weapons, but they do other stuff.
So will there be some things that will be like custom integrations then? So say for example, there was an external project that wanted to be a part of that system, there would be like custom integrations, or would we cover it?
Yeah, we technically could custom add anything we wanted.
Right.
We could do that. There is, so one thing, talking about the AVA NFTs, there's an addition which actually Mr. Live Free did help point out on this in relation to playing the games. We're adding a trait on there called it's basically called qualifications. Do you remember us talking about this Live 3 months ago?
Yes, I do.
I have to take my hat off to it because it was Live 3 that brought it up as an idea. So for example, your AVA can't drive a car unless you've actually trained it to drive a car. It can't, it can't fire a pistol unless it knows how to work a pistol. So there's actually additional data in there. When you do these certain schooling tasks, you can then use these weapons and stuff like that. And then, so you could have an AVA character and do all the qualifications. It would make the NFT more valuable because you've then got a character that can do all this extra stuff that new ones can't.
But then once you mint it, you can't go back and retrain it. Is that correct? Or you can?
Do you mean like reset all the attributes and just put everything back to zero?
Well, I mean, once you mint it, not necessarily reset it, but go back in and get more qualifications.
I'm not entirely sure.
So can you carry on training it after you've minted it and sold it? Once you say you've trained it once, sold it, can you carry on training it again and sell it again?
Because of the dynamic. Do you mean if it's sold on, does it lose its qualifications?
Well, let's say whoever buys it. Let's say Wesley trained certain aspects of it, and I want to I bought it from him, and I want to strengthen other aspects of it, but it's already been minted and been sold to me. Can I go back in, again, using the dynamic NFT aspect of it, can I go back in and train some more on it, and the meta config changes, or no?
No, yeah, so it doesn't reset the attributes that you've built up, if that's what you mean. It's so if you've trained a character and it's got like a certain attack, score, let's just say 160, for example. When you sell it on, them attributes and the numbers are still there. They don't reset.
Of Could I increase that 160
Yeah, of
though,
course you
Dan,
can.
if I
Yes.
trained it even more once I've
Yeah,
marked it?
that's right. Yeah, so you can carry on training it. Yeah.
So it's a
Is
bit
the
like it's a bit like the Matrix, where Neo uploads files to learn ninjutsu and and karate and all those sort of things.
Yeah, you know, that's actually a really good analogy for it. Yeah. But once it's learned them, it's learned them. You don't need to train it to do that again. You know, and they're the training qualifications, which are an addition on there, which we spoke about months ago. And that was actually Live Free's idea. So fair play to Mr. Live Free. It was a good idea to add it in. So that will be added in as well.
Is the training in real time?
Yeah, so it's not like you push a button and then in an hour you can do it. You'll actually do something to get it.
Right.
For example,
it costs blood, sweat,
using
and
a
tears.
handgun. Yeah, yeah, you got to earn it, you know, and that's sort of.
If Live Free's got anything to do with it, you might have to catch a chicken or shoot a chicken.
Carry on with that example that you were going to say. So how to use a handgun. Go on, Dan. What was he going to say?
So you, for example, to learn to use a handgun, you'd have to shoot a target in a specific area, a certain distance within the game, you know, or there'd be stuff like that.
So this will, in effect, replace college.
Well, yeah. So if we, so it's the same with the X Squad characters as well. They're going to be the same. So if you go into a multiplayer ecosystem, you can't all just run to a car and drive the car. It'd be like, well, who can drive this? Who's done it? And you might have one person who goes, yeah, I can, or you're the driver then. Well, you know, everyone might have done it, but the idea is that you know how to use it, or you're trained to use it. Weapon systems specifically as well.
There will probably be a time.
Well, like that,
There will probably be a time where you send your avatar to school to do all the learning.
Actually, so where I'm going with the AVA program, because no one's actually asked why have you been AR testing them. Remember I said at the start that we've done augmented reality interactions. So the end goal with the PvP stuff, where I want to get to, and this, we years ago we didn't have the hardware that supported our software. Our software was too advanced, the hardware couldn't keep up. And public hardware, actually, you could argue now, still isn't out as good as it could be or should be. And I actually wrote to Android a few years ago and said, look, we've been doing a lot of stuff with AR. Your devices are really bad for it. And they actually put out a newsletter about 2 weeks later and said, we've made a mistake. I couldn't have been the only one. There must have been other people out there. But they put out a newsletter a few years ago and said, we're going to work on our AR functionality in our mobile devices because it's not something we focused on. We can see it's a demand in the market, you know, that kind of wording. And then they started upping their game with their new devices. But where I want to go with the AVA program, I want it to be where when people own an NFT, they own the character and they train their character how they see fit. They can view it and, you know, and eventually interact with it. What I mean by interact with is, you know, you put it on your desk and, you know, he's walking around and waves at you and stuff like that. But where I want to go with it is where you could bump into someone. And so, and this tech we don't fully have yet. You know, if I'm honest with you, but it's somewhere I want to go with it, with the PvP stuff. I want you to be able to go up to someone in a public area and say, are you on the AVA program? He says, yeah. He says, right, I'll fight you. Okay, let's fight.
Oh, man.
And then you fight, the two characters fight in augmented reality in reality. So you could be in a park and they've got their devices out or their glasses and you've got your two characters battling on the floor, you know, under your control, without knowing what each other's stats are. And you play for assets. That's one of the sort of final areas I want to go to where we use augmented reality. So we're not building a game, like you imagine with Ava Star. This is sort of one of the reasons why Ava Star is not 100% on it. I want to be able to pull the characters into the real world and use them to fight each other in the real world. And people will see that and they'll go, I want one of them. How do I do that? Like, oh, you can create your own character. How do I do this? Oh, you just go on this app, it's free, you know, and then they create a character. So that's where I'm going with it. And that's where I think we get some real reach, technologically. But AR is a complex, motherfucker sometimes. And I think in a few years we will get there. Maybe about 4 years at least. I think we would get into a position like that. But that's not an easy sort of breakthrough. There's a lot of factors as to why it could look bad, but if we can nail it down where it looks good, people will want to own a character and meet other people who own characters.
Now that you mentioned that, it just completely joggled my memory here. I know it's kind of like, do you know about the Pokemon, how you go to different areas when you drive around the city or drive around the country? You have different like hot spots that you can come in and collect Pokemon and stuff like that. And there was a big old frenzy on that, because everybody was driving around and going to different restaurants or going to different stores and to be able to collect different Pokemon. So I can just imagine, going around with your AR glasses, to different areas. Maybe you can have some sort of like a marketing campaigns for those different stores or different businesses, to where, in this area they have their own special things going on, and maybe they can give you extra powers or just extra energy or something like that for all these AR characters.
Yeah, that vision. I've had it with me for years. I wanted to do that, but before we come on the XRPL, actually, and it's a bit of a shame. So when I say the hardware was not up to date with the software, I kid you not. Sometimes we would hook multiple computers up together just to, get certain things working. But, on mobile devices years ago, they were nowhere near capable. And if we launched the AVA program with the original NFTs we had, where they weren't interoperable, and then started adding what we had, it probably would have folded. I'm pretty certain it would just would have been like, this is a disaster. So it's better to wait, and work with software and hardware updates and upgrades in that area. But I think there's going to be a bit of a boost in it. Like we had a VR craze a few years ago. There'll be a bit of a boost in it with AR, and that'll be where we'll be in position ready to then launch something like that. So that what I'm talking about with AR VAR, that capability wouldn't be on the PvP app when that comes out. There's no way I'll put it on. I would only launch that if I was absolutely certain, because we've got quite high detailed characters as well. If you look carefully, the XDX AVA, when we add him to Unreal Engine, he's that detailed. He actually gets reduced by about 10% of the detail, because he's that detailed. With AR, it's actually something similar. I think the post I put out today, you might be able to tell it doesn't look quite as detailed as what it can be. So I want to make sure that is a success, because if that lifts off, just that AR capability, I mean, the game would do well without it. I have no doubt it would do well without it, but with that capability, that everyone will want to have a go. Everyone will want one, and that will be the reach that we have. And I think we'll see some other games follow on. But that's one of the end goals I've got with the AVA program, is to get to that capability.
And even then, let's say you don't want to fight somebody, you can just walk around, let's say, as your own character, shall we say. I can walk around as my character, as my avatar, under my AR glasses. Is that correct?
Yes, there is a way to do that. Yes, so you could be dressed up as the character. Yeah. So if someone looks at you in AR, they could see the character.
So it's just kind of like an extended social media, shall we say?
It's like wearing a fancy dress costume in digital.
That's correct.
Yeah. That's actually already out. That capability is well out. Yeah. So that's 100% capable. Yeah. So you don't even have to control him. You could essentially be your character. But then you'd be punching something in the face, which wouldn't go down very well. But you could.
Do people want to do this?
You could walk around as an AV, yeah. I've seen that years ago. There is you can. It's like fancy dress in digital, but you have to have someone with the capability looking at you. Yeah, and that's where I see the future going. A layer of digital, augmented reality with reality. That's where I see it. There's not many people who see that being the future. But I know there's a few companies in London, I would have told you guys before, they were building AR infrastructure around tube stations. This was years ago. They were doing this, dominating the sort of space. But I think, there'll be a lot of AR stuff in the future. And if we get these NFTs right, because it's the 3D concept, the actual file of the character, as all these innovation and developments come out, people will own the file to be able to do that without our permission because they own the character. You know, if we get them quite famous, and I've got a feeling we could get them quite famous, especially with connections we have in Asia. They love this AVA stuff, and you know, it's just their thing. It's my thing. It's their thing. Japan, they love the robots and the cyborg stuff. But I think it could really take off, and as our developments unfold. I think it'd be very, very attractive, especially for game finance on the XRPL. We do well at it. It will really make our chain shine.
Hey Dan, do you think the application of it could actually reduce crime as well? Imagine people going shopping with the AR, maybe in the comfort of their own home. They don't have to go out, so there's no products there to steal. You can only buy it if you genuinely want to buy it. That's just one example of it possibly reducing crime, and I'm talking about the application of AR. You know.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know if the AVA program is going to reduce crime, but maybe. I mean, but it might.
Instead of people fighting, there'll just be robots fighting in
That's it. Yeah, you know, a couple of minutes of battling each other. Once people start making money off fighting each other, you know, like I'm sure we'll be battling each other at some stage. People get a taste of that. They'll be like, I really want to train my character. I want to train him up to be this, and this, and they'll spend time on it. And what's really good about spending time on one of the AVAs is that as the attributes increase, you've increased the value of what it's worth. You know, and there'll be demand. People will want to get more. It's a vision I had a long time ago when we launched the AVA NFTs as video footage as NFTs. You know, we got a lot of good feedback. People loved the characters. They thought they were awesome. They wanted more characters. They were like, you know, what's next? We want to see what's next. Well, now we're going to give the people who already own the AVA NFTs. So whichever character we released, if you own the AVA NFT, you're going to get, or at least qualify to get, the new 3D NFT. You would be given it, and there's more characters coming as well. I'll tell you one character I quite like, which I'm looking forward to working with the team with when we write about it. I'll give you one. We, through permission with Patrick from Reaper, there is a Reaper NFT AVA. There is a Reaper, and it wasn't the hardest to build. He was actually one of the easiest, but it looks really good. The hardest one to build was the XDX AVA. XDX and RDX AVA were both hard. The XRP AVA was reasonably hard, but one of the tough ones was Guardian. There's some footage of him actually in one of the recent posts. His cape was a fucking problem in combat in gaming because it was always in the way, or, you know, it sometimes didn't look right. But have it on the character in detail. The cape, if you look carefully, years ago, that was some pretty tough software to get that operational, where it moves with his arms and legs, all the time, wherever he moving. That was a really hard one to do. The twins, I'm a big fan of the twins. We created them. They're probably going to have names. We're not going to call them the XLS 20 and XLS 14. Ava will probably give them names. And what else have we got? And the hunter character. He was quite easy to do, but he was very difficult. He's got a custom bow, which I know some of you would have seen. That was difficult to do the bow. Shoot the arrows.
Cool.
Yeah. But he's cool. But yeah, all these characters they're sort of the first few we launched. There will be the new NFTs come out to the owners for them, and more characters come out later. Lots more characters. We'll probably keep going. I can see them being very popular, especially with the applications online. it's a whole new way of utilizing NFTs. People don't see NFTs as 3D game characters. Some do, who've been in the ecosystem a while, been around the block a little bit, been around the block like blockchain, but, been around the block. But it's going to change the concept, or it's going to change the perception of NFTs to the public. It's going to completely change it. And I'm hoping this is one that will take off. Where people are like, yeah, this is banging. If you're going to get an NFT, this is the one you want to have. That's the kind of, reception I expect to get from it. But it's hard work, guys. It's not easy work. It's hard work. People say, oh, Dan, it's been like 18 months since we've seen an AVA come out. Like, there's work to be done and, to build up to it. But it's nice to be at a stage now where we don't need to do any more developments on Fusion to get these new NFTs out. This next upgrade is the last one. That's it. We're done.
Just changing the subject slightly then, Dan.
Cool,
you alluded to earlier that DPMF has GameFi labs and things that has a vacancy. Do you have any other departments or any other ideas that are coming on board, and any other vacancies for departments that you need to help in the organisation, just in case there's people out in the crypto place that
I do. Oh, and I'll add this. I know Snowfly's down there, and I know Snowfly's actually in one of our labs until we get the GameFi lab up, because he wanted to get involved in some game testing, and that will happen when we get the lead in. So we need someone in for the GameFi lab. Now that actually relates to DPMF Labs, not so much the MetaMart, and that's more of an internal one working with the Expector stuff. We need someone in the SEO lab as search engine optimization. So at the moment we sort of do it ourselves. I done a load of it last week. But to have someone in there would be good. And we need a lead in the NFT lab at the moment. And I've been messaging a few people and headhunting them. And related to NFTs, artwork and stuff like that.
Dan, just so you know, I'm a keen gamer.
I know you are.
If it's internal.
We've been on a show together every week, and every week you tell the guest that you are a keen gamer, and I am there listening, so I am fully aware.
That's not the only thing that he tells our guests.
It's not the only thing I'm keen at as well, Palace, okay? But we'll keep that to ourselves.
If I say I'm a keen gamer too, does that put me and Wes in competition?
Depends what game you're talking about, Mike.
Hey, listen.
It depends how keen we are, son.
Later, when the AVA program's out, you can both. We can see how keen of gamers you are. You can compete with each other.
Yeah, I think
I'm keen like quinoa.
We should be assigned an AVA, so that me and Wes can debut the fighting of the AVAs, Manchester versus Enfield.
You could actually sell tickets for that one. You could be
yeah.
Yeah.
Pay for two. Ticket yeah, I can see it now.
So, apparently, according to X, XRP is the 79th most valuable asset in the world. Where does XIO and XDX sit then, Dan?
We're actually in the top. I can't remember if it's 1% or 10% across the entire ecosystem.
Well, that ain't bad. That ain't bad at all.
No, we really are. So there's, is there something like, I think it's like 11 million assets, something like that. There's loads out there now. And, unfortunately, most don't come to fruition. And I think about this quite a lot. Like, why is that? Cause I want the network to succeed. I want the technology to succeed. And I've never really turned my nose up about anyone I work with. If anyone ever needs any assistance, I'm generally there in some way or another. I've worked with a lot of people privately on the XRPL as well, so that they've succeeded in some stuff where I've helped them out, and they don't even know I was there. Well, the public don't know I was there. But there is a massive fail rate, and it's a lot of value we've lost on this network has been taken through bad intent. And I sometimes it bugs me. I sit there and I go, do you imagine all that money that's been siphoned out just through greed? if that was just put into the right places, it would have changed everything. So it's kind of sad that it is that way, but it is human nature. And I think about this. I think about, it would be nice if all the assets that were ever issued on any chain, everyone had built something, or even if it's a meme coin, we support meme coins, and I've never been a big fan of meme coins per se, but I also sympathize with how hard it must be to run a meme coin project. And I always say it to meme coin projects, say, your job's harder than mine, because you're constantly, it's all community. Where my mindset's more, innovation, and technology. So we build stuff for assets to run on, or build stuff to use assets. But a meme coin project is a lot harder. So yes, it's a shame that so much of the ecosystem has failed, and it puts us in a terrible light. And anyone who comes across the word crypto now, or blockchain, they usually, if they don't understand it, they don't want to know, because we're just looked at as a complete scam. As everyone in the ecosystem. That's probably going to change now. What we were talking about earlier with the Genius bill, etc. But yeah, it's just sometimes a bit sad to be like, there's been a lot of failure, and could it have been prevented? But will any of them come back? Probably not. There was a lot of people who were in our community in 2021. A lot of people who started their own projects. A lot of them did, who were community members, and most of them have gone. And it's like, it's easier to be an investor than it is to be like a builder or run a project. So we run a company. You could say, I don't want to say like we're more legitimate than anyone else. So on paper, we are. But because we are a company. DPMF is a registered company in London.
So I don't think, sorry to interrupt your flow, but I don't think people realise how much support you give to other projects. I know that you've been helping a lot of projects develop and do stuff behind the scenes, and obviously you get there's never really any.
I actually know the answer to this. Go on. I worked it out about a year and a half ago. So the problem we have, we built an NFT exchange where you could trade any currency. We added that capability. It wasn't the best NFT exchange, etc., but the capability was there. And since we've advanced, although there are less live assets on the ledger, but since we've advanced, I think some people don't want to point in the direction of something better. They don't want to point in the direction of someone who's always building stuff, because then there's risk that you take away their investors. Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely.
So, and I can get that, and it's fine. Me, don't bother. The amount of people I work with who've said, do you mind if we just keep this private? And it's like, generally the consensus is, we really trust you, but we'd like to keep this one quiet. And it's so, their limelight's on them through completion of whatever it is they do. I've done, all kinds of stuff for small projects as well, reasonable ones. I get a favour come in and I'll say, I'll help you out. I don't need anything, I'll help you out. But I can kind of see it. And my vision is not pull in a load of investors and, keep all them investors and don't support anyone else. In fact, I'm very, very open to support anyone. My vision is, to just keep on building, and, to build something great. It's not an easy ecosystem. There is a lot of personalities that can be quite devastating. There's a lot of stuff that's happened over the year, where I've learned a few things about a few certain people on the network. Publicly they're, fantastic. Privately they're an absolute arsehole. And, it's just the ecosystem we're in, and it's incredibly small. So this ecosystem is tiny. it's ridiculously tiny. So it's only sort of growth from here. And I think as long as I personally stay focused, because I like actually a nice thriving community. I like talking to people and I like hearing people's opinions, but sometimes I'm so bloody busy. I have to go, right, what's the important stuff? Is it being on social media and communicating with everyone? Or is it knuckling down and getting this done and then this done and this done? So I prioritize that way. And then the fruition, for later. A priority for me is not, a priority for me is not to, spend 24 hours engaging with a community. A lot of meme coin projects do that. But there'll come a stage where it's like, right, we're going to have to do something here to stand out. And for me, I see a priority where I'll just keep building and, provide some services in some way that are a benefit, and then, keep evolving them, keep upgrading and make them the best they can be. And then in time, people will use them, or at least enjoy using them. An NFT exchange is a very hard kind of platform to have in blockchain, because JPEGs and PNG files, the utilized role only goes so far. Unless you've got a partner that's doing something with them assets, it can be quite hard to sell. And then you're trying to make an exchange fee off that trade. It's a tough business unless you're doing something different. And so I can kind of see there's been a lot of NFT exchanges that have failed over the years. I think there's only about 3 or 4 of us left. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's very many. There was like 20 of us a few years ago. But we're not doing anything, at the moment we're not doing anything fun. I want to get to the fun stuff, mark my words. I really want to get to the fun stuff. But to do that, I've got to do the boring stuff. And that means my attention is generally on boring stuff to get to the fun stuff. And this AVA program is one of the fun things. I'm looking forward to having it online. I love the AVA program. I love the characters. And now I love the storyline that we're building out as well. And that fun stuff, when we get that on, that will be a wake up call. And, and that's because we knuckled down to build to get there. We could not launch the AVA program without an NFT exchange. And I've said this for the past few years. There is no NFT exchange that would have supported what we wanted to do. No, not one. I guarantee it. And it's an NFT trader from 2017, 18 on Ethereum. No, I know that wouldn't be. So that's one of the reasons why we built an NFT exchange. So now we can build NFTs that complement what with other stuff we're doing. And we allow the public to have the same capability.
So I've got one more question, and I think obviously it's 2 hours, 6 minutes of your time. We're stopping you building right now, so we won't keep you much longer. But my last question, and before I ask it, I'd just like to say we all appreciate all the hard work the DPMF team are doing and the building that you are doing, because you are seriously building something great. So we all thoroughly, fully behind you, and really interested in all the developments that is happening. Can I just ask, how far away is, because I do believe there was a conversation about having a DEX on the FUZION handle. Is that still well away, or how far?
Yes. So the order we got next after this upgrade is the all currency minting. That's a priority now, because I think we planned to launch that in January, and I switched it for the 3D file stuff, and it was actually so I removed that transition, that development. It was actually to support another project that's working behind the scenes that wants the technology as well. And I said, all right, I can switch a few things. So that's why that didn't come on in January. I switched it. So that comes on next. Then there's trust set validation, and then FUZION will have a DEX inside it. So we connect to the XRP ledger and have an exchange for all currencies, and that's when the AMM stuff comes in and stuff.
Because there is a massive niche for a good deck, a really good, simple DEX to use. Because it's just the one on the actual Zaman wallet, for instance. It's really not user friendly. It's quite clunky, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm as a trading analyst. I like analysing value. I need to go on to one where I can use a lot of tools. So, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I actually don't mind the GateHub charts, but they don't really do the issued assets. You have to manually put in the issue address and the link to find the charts. They don't actually have it as an option. I don't really know why. But no, I agree with you. I actually think there's something not right with leaderboards on some of these dexes as well, relating to market cap. They've got their own manual way. I know XP Market do it, because I spoke to Arthur about it actually, where if a wallet holds more than 5%, they don't count it in the market cap, which I was like, I can kind of get that, but then, so that means the information isn't accurate. Yeah, and then some of the dexes, they'll only display assets with certain liquidity. You know, and it's like, well, so now you're just displaying ones with high liquidity, which is manufactured. So, okay, but, you know, so I don't see there being a fair dex either. So, no, I'm going to look at that. There's a lot of parameters to look at in relation to that, but there will be a dex on Fusion. Yeah, there always was going to be one.
All right. So since Palace brought that question up about the DEX, there's a little
Go on, go on.
there is a little birdie that told me about a part of the XD2 program, the part called Synaptrix, about the non-custodial wallet for the XRPL. So that little bird told me that we're actually skipping some stuff to get that active. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I guess I could tell you a little bit about it. So just so everyone's aware, so it sounds like we're doing a lot. There's 3 projects that we're doing: XD1, XD2, and XD3. XD1 is to do with NFTs and an NFT exchange. XD3 is GameFi, and XD2 is to do with self-custody banking. XD2 was, years ago, XD2 was initially to do with analytics, but the same kind of thing.
Hang on a minute, Dan. Before sorry to interrupt your flow, but have I got to do a little noise? You know, like a new flash.
Save the noise.
Oh, okay.
So we've always had 3 XD projects, in them 3 areas. Now, XD2 was one I wanted to launch first. Now, looking at the forecast of where blockchain is going, it was like, actually, and we've obviously doing XD3, you know, as a reason as well. We needed an NFT exchange so we could develop on there to build out, you know, and assist other projects. And I'll get to where XD2 comes into this. This is why it makes sense. Now, I know you're aware there's the XLS protocol coming out of peer-to-peer borrowing and lending. I think it's XLS, is it 69, Livery, or 65? I can't remember what it is now. It's gone from me.
Yeah, I get my numbers confused too.
Yeah, but the point being is borrowing and lending will be a thing on a peer-to-peer basis. Collateral will be a thing. NFTs can be collateral, but the only reason an NFT can be collateral is if it has demand or a use case, and then it can be used as collateral. So all the XD projects actually tie together in the long term, but right now, from a distance, they look like separate entities. But it's not actually the case. All 3 are 3 areas that all converge into self-custody banking. So the aim is, with DPMF, it is a new form of banking. I probably need a better word for it. There's an entire mock-up of the hyperchain. I know Live Through know what I'm talking about. And Synaptrix is a self-custody wallet that connects to that hyperchain. Rewind a little bit. So why is XD2 so quiet? What's the issue there? Why is that? Because that has development go on, but it's not developments that you see public. A few years ago, we launched 10 pilot nodes called Gen nodes, green energy nodes that run on solar energy. They are operational as a Gen 1, so they're on the XRPL. And then we have Gen 2, which is for the new network. So the stages of where we're at, we need XD1 to be probably about 70% complete, maybe a little bit more before I launch Synaptrix. XD3, I need at least the training app on. Now, I was going to launch the self-custody wallet earlier, and I analysed the ecosystem, I analysed the market and the sort of state of everything. I was like, this is not the right time to do a self-custody wallet. We want to make sure that we've got certain tech involved in XD1, which is, efficient and workable. We want certain tech with NFTs, with XD3, workable and efficient. So then when we do a self-custody wallet, we're able to, or we're in a decent position, to focus on that, because a self-custody wallet is not a cheap, business, if you like. There's going to have a lot of security to it. It's going to have to if we was to launch the self-custody wallet now with Project Synaptrix, we wouldn't make enough revenue to cover it. I guarantee we wouldn't. In fact, I'm fucking certain of it. And that would be a net negative that we don't really want to take on board. So it's got to be timed just right. And it's nice to say, oh yeah, we've got a self-custody wallet online. You can use it, it's like Zarman, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but the Zarman's already here. So let's use that for now. And let's focus on the other stuff that Zarman are not doing. And we'll release our wallet when the time is right. And the timing would be when XD1's at a certain stage, XD3's at a certain stage, because then with the new XLS protocols, they will complement the self-custody wallet.
Could you do your wallet so that when you open up your Zaman wallet, you're using XRP to open the wallet and it stays in the wallet? Could you lock down XDX in that same way? So
the XDX, the XDX hyperchain, so that will run on that will have the native XDX asset that you have on the XRPL now. You'll have to transition across. So there won't be just XDX appear on the hyperchain. You'd have to, it has to transfer across. I sat down with some team members for a long bloody time, going over all the qualities a bank has. How do we make that self-custody? And you know what? To be honest, when we started brainstorming this is a few years ago, it was like nearly impossible to do like peer-to-peer banking kind of thing. Now the XRPL overall, and with Ripple, I think they're going to start transitioning to a bank, connected to the network. But the XRPL is so transparent and it's almost too transparent. And to self-custody that it's not really a form of banking. I probably need a better word for it, but what I'm trying to say is there are certain features a bank does that you can't do on a layer 1 chain with this much self-custody. You have to really think outside the box. Let me give you an example. You make a savings account with a bank. Yeah, what the bank does is they'll take a portion of your savings and they'll invest it, and that's how they make money to then give you interest. Well, how do you do that with self-custody banking? Well, it's after a long period of thought process, we come up with a way to do that with a series of XLS protocols that come in. So we've got all them to implement, and we're doing it on the XRPL. So we'll launch on the XRPL initially, and then we'll branch over to our hyperchain. And the hyperchain is purely about banking. It is purely about banking. But we've got a few additions on the layer 0, which are an improvement to the XRPL. And I've actually spoke to some of the guys at Ripple about it. This is what I put a grant in for. I put a grant in for the solar energy nodes, and they turned it down. They said no, and I think it's because they were worried. I would guess, because I would think the same. They were worried that they're going to fund a new chain coming up, which is what they would have done. They would have funded a new chain coming up, which could be slightly better than the one they're on now, than this one now. So yeah, XD2. So most of that developments, there's not much to say publicly because it's mainly been about green energy nodes. And there's been some adaptations with the gen nodes, some better materials.
Please tell me you're still going to do it.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah,
been
man,
3
good.
projects. That's what we're here for. So XD1, XD2, and XD. That's what we're here for. We're not. That's why we're here. I can't. They were the 3 projects we put out from when we first came on. I think it was in 2021. We put, this is our XD1 project. Then it was like, this is XD2, this is XD3. But there's a lot of moving parts to it, and they do all complement each other. And then at the end, it does all converge. And then that's our ecosystem, and that's like a trusted high-tech innovation development. That's our ecosystem. That's what we are. And then we expand from there. There is in the pipeline, I'll bring it up now because I know Live3 and Palace are aware, in the pipeline, there's an XD4 project which we haven't put out publicly. Now that started in January. There was development started January through to March, and then I halted it because I went to Africa. And I haven't reactivated it yet, but there is an XD4 project, and I'm not going to say any more on that because there's not really a need to. But there is a whole other project in, and the reason that one came up, it was to do with expanding blockchain technology using how can I best word this without sort of giving the game away? It was to expand the use of blockchain technology in an area that needed it, that basically wasn't. With some small elements of AI, but XD4. I won't put anything public out about that, until the day comes it's on. There is competition in that ecosystem in the traditional world, in the Web 2 world, that would not be very happy, especially in London, if we turned it on, because it's very competitive. But it does utilize assets as well. I know the team DPMF Labs and the panel here have an idea of it, but it's something I don't want to say publicly. And I know you guys will understand. I know some of you have got more detail than others, and that's all I'll say on it.
So I think that's a good point to wrap up the show. I'd just like to say thank you very much, everybody, for coming out tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the content. And if there's any questions you want to put to the DPMF team, I'm sure Dan would love your emails and comments and any advice or any areas of interest that you'd like to discuss with them. I'm sure he'd be happy to engage. See you next week at 8 o'clock.
Palace, remember?
Live free, yes. Do your thing.
I'm the final word here. Thank you very much, Palace. I know you were kidding. Hey, this show was sponsored by FUZION XIO.com, a premier permissionless NFT platform where you can mint and sell NFTs in any of the over 54,000 coins on the XRPL, and soon to be where you need to go to get the future YEM Part 1 and 2 rewards. The current YEM Infinity reward went out earlier today, so you should have it in your wallets. Remember, to be able to unlock the yield earning mechanism, you will need to own at least one XIO, and the amount of YEM Infinity reward depends on the amount of XTX you own. Thank you for joining us today and learning about the DPMF updates and the augmented reality 3Ds NFTs. Please reach out to Daniel if you have any questions, and if you have, and they can show you a little bit more about the project if there's something that's confusing you. Please follow all the speakers here. Please do not take anything we say as financial advice. Do your own research. With that said, we bid you farewell and hope you join us again next week for another deep dive into the blockchain world. This show is recorded, so if you missed a part, you can go back and listen to the show. Please share and have a beautiful day, people. Bye-bye.